Our moon is Earth's sole natural satellite and the solar system's fifth biggest moon. Additionally, it is the only celestial body that has ever seen a human. It makes Earth a more habitable planet by dampening the wobbling of our home planet's axis, resulting in a reasonably steady climate. Some may argue that the moon is our greatest ally, but what if that ally turns against us? What would happen if it got any closer? Or what if it crashed and collided with our planet? How might this shattered moon seem from Earth? Here's what would happen if the moon crashed into Earth. Between 30 and 50 million years after the solar system's creation, or around 4.6 billion years ago, the moon was born. But as we all know, the Earth's gravity draws everything towards it, even the moon, but it manages to stay afloat as if held by an opposing force. But there is no other force that can counteract gravity. Instead, the solution to keeping upright is a sideways motion known as an orbit. You see orbits all the time. They are essentially an application of projectile motion. When a body is thrown, the force is delivered tangential to the Earth's curve, but the object's motion is parabolic due to the influence of gravity. All of this meant that if you threw your ball fast enough, it would curve around the planet and return to you. And if there was no air to slow it down, it could stay in orbit indefinitely. The moon spins around the Earth in a similar manner, but the velocity with which it becomes entangled with the Earth's gravity prevents it from collapsing. This maintains the moon's regular orbit around the Earth. So, first and foremost, the moon rotates away from the Earth at a pace of 3.8 centimeters, 1.5 inches every year. Though it may appear slow, all of this wandering will mount up over time. The moon's orbit would increase from slightly over 27 days to 47 days in about 50 billion years or so. So, this is what the moon does: fall sideways around Earth very quickly, without any air to slow it down. Temperatures on it can range from 127 degrees Celsius, hot, to minus 173 degrees Celsius, cold, 260 degrees Fahrenheit. Because the moon's atmosphere is so thin, most of what astronauts left on its surface has not been swept away. So, with the moon going away, you have nothing to be concerned about, right? Think again. If you fast forward 65 billion years from the time you are watching this video, there is a potential that the moon will be hurtling towards Earth. Why, you might ask? This is because the Earth's orbit would slow down over a long time, to the point where the moon's orbital period would progressively push the moon inward. But you have nothing to worry about, because neither you nor anyone you know will be able to experience it. And not just because you have a short lifespan, but because no human will be able to see it. According to Universe Today, the sun will burst into a red giant in 4 or 5 billion years, potentially blowing up Earth and the moon. But suppose for some inexplicable reason unknown to science, this happens much sooner, perhaps in a few years. Maybe we irritated some aliens, and they decided to push the moon towards Earth. The short answer is that there would be a massive explosion, and one of us would die. Which would it be then? Keep watching to find out. Even if it happened gradually, the consequences would be terrible. For the first several days, there would be no noticeable changes, and most people would not even notice. However, we are confident that the news will eventually pick it up, and scientists will begin to realize that the moon has become somewhat brighter. But we regular people wouldn't notice anything. The only people who might notice would be those who live near water, because the moon affects the tides. As we said earlier in the video, Earth's tides are caused by the gravitational attraction of the moon. The incentive for life in our waters to relocate to land may have come from the tides. In a nutshell, the moon improves the quality of life on Earth. However, with the moon getting closer, it seems like even worse news, since the tides will continue to rise. Coastal cities like Tokyo, New York, London and Mumbai would be swamped by enormous tides as the moon got closer, and there is no end in sight. Hardcore surfers would love to surf some tasty waves for a very short period of time. However, that would only last for a very brief period of time, since the infrastructure of the world would start collapsing as the tides surge over 10 meters, uprooting up to 1 billion people who happen to live along the beaches. The moon is now only 2/3 of the way from Earth. As a result, it would no longer be very surfable. Shipping would come to a halt, since the ports would become unworkable, causing food shortages. Forget about the internet, because it would be in chaos as 95% of it is carried by cables that span oceans. With the high tide, all of their terminals would be destroyed. And if you think you're safe because you live inland, think again, because tidal bores allow streams to run backward, contaminating surface and groundwater sources with salt water. And as things continue to deteriorate, you and your cars would be left stranded, since the majority of the oil refineries would be shut down. Remember how wild things were in early 2020 when the virus was first discovered? Well, things are about to get much crazier. With the new rationing limitations, most shelves would be empty. In the cities, turmoil rules during the scavenging low tide, and when the water rises again, survivors will have to seek shelter in tall buildings. At least one piece of good news remains as the moon continues to fall. At least we won't be overwhelmed and blasted into space. This is due to the gravity of Earth being 6 times greater than that of the moon. You would be okay even if the moon were directly over us right now. However, because Earth's gravity is 6 times greater than that of the moon, it would begin to stretch out into an egg shape, leading to disturbances like moonquakes. And when it gets closer to Earth, there will be a lot of volcanic activity and earthquakes. The stratosphere would be filled with enormous volumes of volcanic aerosols that would be so bright they would reflect sunlight back into space. What little light does get through is rust red, and it is reduced on a regular basis by eclipses. On the other hand, in a sense, this may help to combat global warming. Earth's spin would accelerate as the moon got closer. Our days will gradually get shorter. As a result, there is a quick cooling of the entire planet, and since acid rain and summer snow can kill even the hardiest plants, no one need be concerned about climate change any longer. At this point, billions have died, while an egg-shaped moon continues to approach. Now get ready for the great finale. The moon has now hit the Roche limit. What exactly is this Roche limit, though? It is the point in astronomical mechanics where the forces of gravity and tidal forces working to separate a satellite are equal in strength. By this time, there wouldn't be much of life as we know it in coastal places, since the Earth's tidal waves would be around 30,000 feet high. It's basically over once the moon approaches the Roche limit. Additionally, by the time it reaches a distance of 10,000 kilometers, the entire moon has disintegrated into dust and has formed a vast ring system around the Earth. In other words, the moon can only approach our planet from a distance of 10,000 kilometers before going boom. The Earth would resemble Saturn with rings around it, with the main distinction being that ours would not survive long. Smaller bits of our ex-satellite, the Moon, would shower down on Earth first, followed by larger portions. While the entire Moon is unlikely to collide with Earth, chunks of debris will ultimately fall on Earth, damaging cities, generating large craters, and perhaps eliminating all life on Earth. The general apocalyptic character of things comes to a halt when there is no moon. The seas retreat, washing away one final time. But as we mentioned earlier in the video, the moon is getting farther away from us every year. Therefore, it is quite unlikely that we will view those lovely Saturn-like rings from Earth. And the Earth does have a time limit, as that red star in the sky will explode one day. So where would you see the moon if it collided with Earth? And if you had a choice between bringing your father or your girlfriend or boyfriend to Mars aboard Elon's spacecraft, who would you choose? Remember, you can only choose one. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section down below.